So give me the faith to finish the race. Looking up, got my eyes on you. I'll follow your lead, whatever it takes. Give it up, give it all for you. I won't worry about tomorrow, 'cause I know that you know where I'm going.
Greetings. Welcome to our next installment of Wednesday's Word. I'm Pastor Dom Aquilino. And this week we'll be concluding our study, our meditation on the Beatitudes in Matthew chapter 5. If you want to turn there. If not, I'll be reading verses 3 through 12 in Matthew chapter 5, where it says this: Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted. Blessed are the gentle, for they shall inherit the earth. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they shall be satisfied. Blessed are the merciful, for they shall receive mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called sons of God. Blessed are those who have been persecuted for the sake of righteousness. That's what we'll talk about this week. For theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are you when people insult you and persecute you and falsely say all kinds of evil against you because of me. Rejoice and be glad, for your reward in heaven is great. For in the same way they persecuted the prophets who were before you. Well, my friends, I've always been a little weird. Ever since I was a kid, I marched to the beat of my own drum. I am just a little different than most human beings in the world. My grandma used to call me special. But I think all of us could agree that at one point in our lives we've been laughed at. We've been made fun of. Whether it's something hugely embarrassing or just mildly embarrassing, I think everybody at one point or another has been mocked. Every person on earth can remember a time like this. And what's interesting to remember is that if we are to live lives that honor Christ, obedient, faithful lives, we will be mocked sometimes. We will seem weird sometimes. We'll stick out like sore thumbs in this world. Now, as our culture and as the world continually goes down the road of a morality and a worldview that's anti-biblical and not biblical, we're going to stick out more and more. And so it's important to remember what Jesus told us, that we're blessed when we're persecuted. We're blessed when we're mocked. We're blessed when we're insulted, if we're being insulted because of Jesus, because of how we're different, because of righteousness. So Jesus says, you are blessed when you're mocked because of how you live. And as the Christian way of life, again, and our cultural norms become more divergent, we're going to be mocked more and more. We're going to seem to be even more strange. Now, you are blessed when you're mocked because of Jesus. Notice what we read in verse 10. It says, Blessed are those who have been persecuted for the sake of righteousness. So this doesn't mean that you're automatically blessed whenever anybody makes fun of you. What it means is that if you're being made fun of or treated harshly because of living a righteous life, there's a blessing to that. There's something awesome to that. There's something beautiful about that. In verse 11, it says, Blessed are you when people insult you and persecute you and falsely say all kinds of evil against you, listen, because of me, Jesus said. So again, he's not saying that whenever you feel out of place or whenever you're being treated harshly or mocked, that you're blessed. What he's saying is that if the reason why you're being treated that way is your devotion to Jesus, then there's a blessing that comes with that. They will say evil about you falsely. They will treat you this way because of Jesus. Now, why is it a blessing to live this way and to experience these things? Well, first of all, there is an earthly honor in persecution. I mentioned this verse in my sermon last Sunday, or a few Sundays ago. In Acts chapter 5, verse 41, I love this verse. It says this. It says, So they went on their way from the presence of the council, this are the apostles, rejoicing that they had been considered worthy to suffer shame for his name. There is an honor to being mistreated in the cause of Christ. Secondly, there is eternal reward in persecution. God will repay us. God will make up for every persecution that we face and every time that we're mocked. And thirdly, there are forerunners to your struggle. Notice what verse 12 says. It says, "Rejoice and be glad, for your reward in heaven is great. For in the same way they persecuted the prophets who were before you." So just remember, when you're being mocked or made fun of or mistreated for being a Christian, you're not the first person to experience that. In fact, you're part of a long line of godly people who not only experience this, but embrace this for the honor that it truly is to walk with Christ. Now, how does this then lead us to prayer? That's the last question that we need to ask. And so let's pray these things. First of all, let's pray for our culture, that they would open their eyes, not only to the truthfulness of the gospel, but the beauty of the gospel, so that living this way and thinking this way and believing these things would not be a cause for mocking, but a cause for rejoicing. Secondly, let's pray for our church, because the Bible is very clear that compromised Christians compromise in order to avoid persecution. In fact, let me read Galatians 6:12 to you. Galatians 6:12 said that the whole problem with the Galatians was really a way for certain people to avoid persecution. In fact, it says this in verse 12, "Those who desire to make a good showing in the flesh try to compel you to be circumcised." That was what they were trying to get the Galatians to do. Now listen to what it says here. "Simply so that they will not be persecuted for the cross of Christ." So let me ask you to continue to pray for Calvary Bible Church, that we would be the kind of place that would not compromise and would not refuse to obey the gospel simply to avoid a little mocking or a little harsh treatment, but instead that we would embrace that. And thirdly, I would ask that you would pray for yourselves, that God would strengthen you, that God would give you the ability to stand strong when to do so would open you up to being mocked or mistreated. Let's pray.